Welcome to this week's Mystic Message. This week's Mystic Message speaks to a part of our healing and alchemy process that we are up-leveling, that maybe we've been missing in the past. There might be, some people throughout that have kind of navigated this way, but it speaks to the part of our healing and processing experience once we work through the feelings and we kind of get to the tail end of it, whatever the thing is, whether it's guilt, it's shame, it's grief, it's, whatever it is, whatever we're healing. Towards the end, we find ourselves coming through into the acceptance and the reflective phase. And so the message today is a call for us to go deeper, for us to navigate this in a different way, for us to not only alchemize the emotions, right? The process of sitting in the emotions and alchemizing these uncomfortable feelings, but let's alchemize the reflective and the acceptance phase. So whatever it is, we often find ourselves at this point, right? Acceptance. And it's such a interesting process and word. And some people get really stuck here. They get stuck in accepting that something horrible happened to you, or something horrible happened to a loved one, or you've lost a loved one, or whatever the case may be. And so again, this message is a call. We are, as human beings, we have this beautiful gift of depth, of emotional depth, which allows us to alchemize emotions in such a beautiful way, which is so powerful, and not all of other, realms and dimensions in the universe have that opportunity. And so what makes us unique, in addition to, being such creative beings, is the depth, is the emotional depth. And so again, this is a call of a leveling up collectively, societally, as a species, to go deeper into the acceptance and the reflective phase. Okay, so what does that mean? So often when we get to this reflective acceptance phase, where some people do get stuck, we think once we come out of the depths of the emotion of it, and then we think we rise up higher, right? When we're in the depths of it, we're in a very subjective viewpoint, right? Where we're in it. We can only see from our perspective. It's kind of hard to see from the other perspectives because we're in it. And that's the point. That's how you navigate and transmute emotions, is through being in it, right? You can't go up high and have this objective viewpoint and neutralize emotions from this kind of mental watching, observing energy. So we're in the emotions of it, right? And then we find ourselves, okay, I shed all that weight, I feel a lot lighter, and now we kind of go up. And what that means is I'm referencing the difference between being in a subjective place and being in an objective place. And, we find ourselves, we go up in this objective viewpoint, right? We think the eagle as the archetype of objective viewing, because they're up high, they're soaring above and they're looking down. So there's a level of disconnect. They're not in it. They're above it. Not above it in a holier than thou or I'm better than you way. They're above it and they just have a different viewpoint, right? When you're in something, right? You look around, everything looks the way it does from the angle that you're at. But imagine if you're up in a plane and you're looking down, everything looks different. And that is that objective viewpoint and an objective reality. And I think a lot of people strive for that and or feel comfortable in that. And there is benefit to that. And there are absolutely times and places to be in that objective viewpoint. But like I said, it's a little detached. It does allow you to see things outside of your own perspective and outside the intensity of the emotions, but it does keep you detached a bit. So the call in this process, instead of use your own judgment, your own discernment. Some scenarios might call for being in an objective place for a period of time. But this is a call collectively. So instead of always the go-to being go up, go high, and look down and see from that perspective, now the call is to sink deep. And I don't mean deep into the emotions of it, because again, this is post emotional alchemy. This is post I've sat in my depression or in my feelings for X amount of time until I've neutralized them, I've worked through them, I've alchemized them, right? So instead of going up, it's imagine you sink deep. It's imagine you sink deep into the earth. And what this does, this also, just like going above, allows for a new and different perspective that is absolutely beneficial. Going deep allows for another perspective as well. Here's the difference. This allows you to go deep. It allows you to sink and to almost to see the roots. So this situation, right? It could be a parent abandoned you as a child. It could be I lost a loved one. It could be an accident that took place where maybe there's grief or shame around it, or decisions that were made, maybe from not the greatest headspace, right? Whatever the thing is, we get through the emotions of it and now we need to accept it. Sometimes the objective viewpoint does not fully allow for a deep acceptance in the way that we have the capacity for. This is the thing, is we're pushing ourselves as a species to go deeper, to do more. We have a bigger capacity that we are not using. So imagine you go deep. Imagine you sink into the earth. And so this situation, imagine it as this thing that then has roots. Because the thing on the surface, right, we've acknowledged that. We have felt it. We lived it. We witnessed it. We processed it. We went through the emotions of it, right? All of what's above the surface. But now if we go deeper, we see the roots. We see what caused the thing up top, right? If the situation is this plant or a tree, right? Underneath the surface is a lot more that exists. And being able to see the roots allows you to see it from a different perspective that you won't have access to up here looking down. That, if anything, you're further away from it. And so going deeper, sinking deeper allows you to see the roots, the causation. And what this does is this allows a level of compassion and empathy that wouldn't be necessarily there from the objective view, going through the reflection and the acceptance phase. And so whether the compassion and empathy is coming for, compassion for yourself, for maybe decisions that you made, or compassion for the other party and for the decisions that they made, whatever the case may be. It allows to see it from this deeper perspective, because now we're seeing the roots. Now we're seeing, my parent left me because they were insecure and they didn't feel confident enough to take care of the child. Or it could even be, maybe it's not even compassion and seeing the different perspective for the other party and their motives. Maybe it's seeing this deeper perspective of the what and the why, right? Maybe it's an ancestral pattern. Maybe you go and you see those roots and you see that those roots go deep from, lineage, through your lineage, ancestor after ancestor, and now you're seeing the pattern. And again, we don't always see that from the top down. We don't see how deep the roots actually go. We don't see that this is, my mother, acted in this way because her mother acted in this way, and then her mother acted in this way, and then her mother acted in this way. And or maybe going deep and looking at the roots of it allows you to see a deeper why. Because that is really the truth of it, right? It unlocks a deep level of compassion, and it unlocks a deep level of the deep why, right? And that is the lesson at hand. Like, why are we experiencing this? Why are we attracting this into our lives? And so that is the component that we do, the big lesson, right? The why, the big lesson is something we find ourselves coming through in the acceptance and the reflective phase from this objective place, right? When you do it from this depth and you merge the compassion, because when you're objective, compassion and empathy is less. We're super detached. But when you're lower and you're deeper and we're embodying the compassion and the lesson at the same time, it adds a deeper layer and level of what we can understand, what we can process, what our capacity is to hold and to move through us. And you miss a lot. You miss a lot of the depth from the objective place. So this is the call. This is the ask. whatever you've been working through this year or the lead up to this year, that you've worked through the depth of most of the emotions, right? Because you don't want to necessarily go deeper into this while you're still really processing the grief or the, depression or the guilt or whatever it is, right? This is when we get to that acceptance and reflective phase. I invite you to go deep, to imagine yourself sinking into the earth and seeing the roots that caused the thing. Seeing a different perspective of the situation that involves, not just the objective looking down view, but bringing in the compassion, still being able to feel. What it really is objective understanding without completely losing the emotion of it, the feeling of it. It's the bridge. It's, instead of being subjective or objective, what if we could be somewhere in the middle? What if we could still hold compassion and understanding and love for ourselves, maybe for the other party even, but also understand the big why? And there are some of you who do this. This is your gift. And if you already process in this way, this is your gift. This is what you're here to share with the world. So if that is you, this is your call to step into action, to be of service, to help, to share, to teach, to guide, right? And if you're someone who maybe likes to be in that objective space, this is your call to sink deep, to look at the roots, to see from that perspective, to touch. Imagine sinking into the earth and touching those roots and allowing yourself to feel the compassion from a merging of almost the subjective and the objective place, because that is where we're going. It's not this and that. It's not black and white. It's not good and bad. It's, what does it look like to be a little messy in between? All right. Sending you all my love. Happy holidays, and hop on over to fringespirit.com and check out the newest soul stream getting launched this week. Mwah. Bye.